What we've got here is a World War II Bren gun that's been demilled to make it legal to import, and we're going to go through the process with the video to show you all the work that's required to turn it into a fully functioning semi-auto like the one in the background. It's a long, involved process with a lot of work, and we're going to go through it step by step. The first step in building the gun, we're going to have to prepare the receiver for welding. Basically, as you can see, this thing has been cut with an oxyacetylene torch, and the cuts are all full of slag and burned metal. So all that's going to need to be ground off, and then the parts themselves are going to have to be abrasive blasted so that they're all nice and clean when we put them on the jig and fit them up, to get good results when we start to weld them up. The receiver's been degreased and blasted with number 80 grit Allox to remove the finish and all the filth and the dirt and everything that's been built up on it. Now we can see all the slag from the torch cutting operation that's going to have to be removed. All this stuff in areas like that, and then on the inside of the receiver, the slots where the bolt carrier goes and the lower fits, all that's going to have to be perfectly cleaned out so that the parts are going to fit on the welding jig absolutely perfectly. All the time you spend here preparing this, it makes a big difference in the way that the finished receiver is going to come off the welding jig. Alright, the parts have been prepped. I've ground all the slag off of all the edges that have been torch cut, and we have nice, clean, shiny metal. I've run a file through these slots and along these surfaces to make sure that they're going to sit perfectly square and flat in the welding jig. I've also welded in a pair of hardened steel pins to block a full auto bolt from going in, and in this portion I've filled in part of the bolt carrier channel with weld and machined it flat to keep a full auto unmodified bolt carrier from going in there. Now we're ready to put the parts on the welding jig and get all the spacing set up. As you can see, the parts fit on there pretty tight, which is good, what we want. Now I'm going to use the barrel nut to space these parts. We've got this set up to the front of the welding jig, and I'm going to use a feeler gauge and put a 10/1000 gap in here, because basically once I start welding this, two things are going to happen. It's going to shrink and it's going to warp, so we need to compensate for that as we set it up. So I'm putting this feeler gauge in, again giving it 10/1000 to allow for the shrinkage. Then we're going to put this rear section on, and I'm going to tighten this front section down, and we're going to put the bolt in there to set the spacing for the middle sections. Now, I've taken the bolt and I've put the relief slots in it to clear those pins, and I've also put 3 layers of masking tape on the back. This is going to space these two sections out about 15/1000 apart, and that's going to allow for the shrinkage when I weld it. So we put the bolt in, get it into position, and then I've got a jack bolt here that's going to hold it up in position while I get everything set up and clamped down. Okay, the bolt is in position, and now we're going to tap the rearward section forward until it's seated up against the back of the bolt, and it's there. Now we're going to tighten down these bolts, and we're going to take the bolt out. Got the bolt out, we're going to install the charging handle, and then we're going to put the last section of the receiver on. And line it up so that it's square and even with the back of the fixture. That's going to give us our proper length. Okay, good to go there. Now we're going to tighten everything down. Now, we're going to put this filler bar inside. As you can see, it fits fairly tight, which is good. And that's going to back up these areas when we weld. Now we're going to check our gap here, make sure this is still good, and it is. We're going to make sure that the barrel fits in, and it does. Alright, now we're ready to take this thing over to the welding bench.